Welcome to the Professor PM podcast, where we crack open the secrets of the CAPM exam. So, there's this shocking stat. 40% of first-time test takers don't pass the CAPM exam, right?
Yeah, crazy, right? It really makes you question the study methods people are using.
Absolutely. Most folks spend months cramming by splitting their study time equally across the 4 domains like, I'll give each domain 25%. But that approach is fundamentally flawed.
Right. So what's the real deal? Where should the focus be exactly?
Well, let's break it down. The exam blueprint is split into 4 domains. Domain 1, Project Management Fundamentals, is 36% of the exam. Domain 4, Business Analysis Frameworks, is 27%. Then you have Domain 3, Agile, at 20%. And finally, Domain 2, the predictive or plan-based stuff, comes in at only 17%.
Wow, so the basics and understanding value, those are clearly the heavy hitters.
Exactly. Think about it. Domains 1 and 4 together are 63% of the exam. That means almost 2/3 of your energy should go to the fundamentals and business analysis parts. It's like building a house on a foundation. You have to get that structure right.
Yep, totally. But then, why do so many people get tripped up by focusing too much on Domain 2, which is just 17%?
It's simple. A lot of students think that if they master the mechanics, like work breakdown structures, critical path, variance analysis, that's going to do the trick. They overinvest in memorizing, say, the predictive methods. But they forget that these tools are, just one small piece. The judgment on when to use them is what really matters.
Right. It's not just about plugging in numbers. It's about understanding the context in which these methods shine or completely fall apart.
Exactly. For instance, Domain 1 is all about project management fundamentals. Here, you need to immediately pick up on distinctions between a project, a program, a portfolio, and operations. It's not just definitions either. You're expected to identify them within real-world scenarios.
Yeah, that makes sense. And missing these basics isn't just about misdefining terms. It actually robs you of the language you need to tackle 70% of the questions effectively, right?
Correct. It's like if you miss the foundation, you're not even in a position to build the walls. So, getting the roles right, like knowing who the project sponsor is versus who the project manager is crucial.
Absolutely.
Now, let's jump to Domain 4, Business Analysis Frameworks. This one is worth 27%, and here the focus shifts to value. It's all about linking stakeholder needs to the project deliverables. It's like making sure you're not building a fancy perfect house on a totally wrong plot of land.
Yeah, that analogy really nails it. So in Domain 4, the exam isn't just looking at definitions. It's expecting you to know how to trace requirements back to strategic goals, like using a requirements traceability matrix, right?
Exactly. And that's what ensures that every deliverable actually has business value, which is a vital real-world skill. This detail is often woven into questions that might even seem to be about agile or predictive methods.
Yep. Speaking of Agile, let's discuss Domain 3. It's 20% of the exam, and there's a dangerous myth that Agile equals no planning.
Yep, that's a major misstep. Agile is not being chaotic, but iterative planning with regular feedback loops. You still manage constraints, scope, and deliver on customer value. It's all about finding the right balance in a fast-paced environment. And then there's Domain 2. The predictive methods are just 17%. People often underestimate this domain because of its size. However, if you lose grip on methods like the work breakdown structure or the critical path method, you're in trouble. It's like forgetting to use a map on a road trip. You might know the
that's a solid
destination,
comparison.
but you're lost on how to get there.
So to pull it all together, there's a massive multiplier effect here. The study plan needs to see the connections. Domain 1 sets the context. Domain 4 ensures delivery of value, and Domains 2 and 3 tell you how to get there.
Absolutely. And here's where it gets interesting. Many exam questions are actually a blend of multiple domains. For example, consider a scenario where an agile team misses its sprint goals, while the sponsor complains about misaligned priorities. You have to draw on agile but also fundamentals and value principles to even diagnose the issue.
That's complex but very telling.
Exactly. It demands that you connect these concepts seamlessly. And in a similar fashion, think about a predictive scenario where a sudden scope change happens. You need to know the project planning basics from Domain 1, the mechanics of Domain 2 for adjusting calculations, and then connect it with Domain 4 to determine if the change aligns with strategic goals or just represents scope creep.
Yep, it all comes back to studying the system as a whole. I have one slight critique here. Some might argue that focusing too heavily on domains 1 and 4 might leave you underprepared for, say, agile specifics that are essential in modern projects.
That's a fair point. But the idea isn't to completely ignore agile or predictive methods. It's to balance your study in a way where you recognize that most exam questions rely on the foundational knowledge and strategic judgment. In other words, while agile is super important, the language and value framework provided by domains 1 and 4 are like, the skeleton that holds everything together. And that's really the heartbeat of the whole CAPM study strategy. It's about building a mental model that interconnects all these aspects rather than memorizing isolated facts.
Right, it's all about the connections. So if someone's sitting down to prepare for the CAPM, what's the first step you'd recommend?
First, really get to know Domain 1. It's the foundation, the definitions, the roles, and the core planning elements like cost, quality, risk, and schedule. Understand that if you miss that, you're not just missing 36% of the exam, you're missing the language that ties into nearly 70% of the questions.
Definitely not something to skimp on.
Then, definitely dive into Domain 4. Don't just learn a list of business analysis frameworks. Learn how they connect with stakeholder needs and how they ensure the project is actually delivering value. This domain plays a critical multiplier role in ensuring you interpret scenario questions correctly.
Right? It's like making sure the house is built on the right foundation. And as for agile and predictive methods in domains 3 and 2,
those are studied in the context of when and why they're used. For Agile, know the frameworks: Scrum, Kanban, XP, and SAFe. Understand that it's about faster, iterative development. For Predictive, it's more about the mechanics and when a structured plan-based approach is actually the best choice. It's all about judgment rather than pure memorization.
Spot on.
So, to sum it up in a neat mental picture, think of your CAPM study plan as a system where Domain 1 is your language, Domain 4 is your value engine, and Domains 2 and 3 are your tactical approaches. Miss one link, and the chain breaks.
Absolutely, nothing stands alone here. And that really distinguishes those who join the 60% who pass on the first try from the 40% who stumble. It's not about isolated facts. It's about mastering the system as a whole.
Exactly. And it's a lesson that goes way beyond just exam prep. It's a real-world skill. Whether you're managing a project, a team, or even your day-to-day workflow, ensuring that every task is aligned with a broader strategic goal is what truly makes a difference.
No doubt about that. Now, before we wrap up, any final tips for our listeners?
Sure. Remember, don't treat the CAPM exam as just a test of definitions or mechanical processes. Rather, see it as an opportunity to cultivate strategic judgment. Focus on understanding the deep connections between project fundamentals, business value, and execution methods. That's the secret sauce that
Absolutely,
really
that sauce makes all the difference.
Project manager from a great one.
And my final word would be that it's okay to challenge traditional study methods. If you find yourself overinvesting in one domain at the expense of others, take a step back and reassess. The goal is a balanced, integrated approach.
Precisely. It's like tuning an orchestra and not just focusing on one instrument. When each domain plays its part, the whole composition comes together. That's how you ace not just the CAPM, but also real-life project management challenges.
Right? The symphony of project management. Thanks for the in-depth discussion. I think our listeners now have a much clearer picture of the CAPM exam blueprint and how to strategically prioritize their study efforts.
Anytime. Here's to mastering the system and turning that 40% into a solid 60% pass rate. Best of luck to everyone prepping out there.
Absolutely. And remember, it's all about strategic judgment and aligning your work with true business value. Catch you next time on the Professor PM podcast.